be one of the issues to avoid wastage.
Yes.
So generally, key ministries like Minister of Education, Minister of Health, when you see these cuts, of course, because this is where Mwananchi is really touched, we really need to examine what is it that is being reduced. Because again, taxation is supposed to, again, give equity to Mwananchi, that we took your money this way, but equity, I give you this kind.
You will benefit this way.
This way, yes.
Yes.
And part of that is, key is Minister of Education, Minister of Health, roads and all that. So if you are not seeing it, then it becomes an issue.
Actually, I was listening to CS Transport, Murkomen, who is actually pushing to increase the cost of fuel by 7 shillings. And he's saying that this 7 shilling is supposed to take care of the dilapidated roads that we have today, I guess as a result of the floods that were experienced. But if you look at people like you and I, people who use motorized transport, and now basically almost everybody, we have the circulation,
the motor vehicle circulation tax.
Motor vehicle circulation tax, where you will pay the insurer a certain percentage of the value of your vehicle.
2.5%.
2.5% of the value of your vehicle is what you're going to pay to the insurer for that particular. And then now you have again 7 shillings added on the cost of fuel. This is going to impact very negatively on quite a number of people.
Yeah, true. The government in this budget, they come up with so many strategies to raise taxation. When you talk of direct tax and indirect taxation, and that's why Mwananchi is crying. There's a little bit of lack of sensitivity to Mwananchi, because the same person you're taxing and overtaxing, and the impact is. When analyze is not what people are seeing. For example, like I've seen you in what you are shown on edible oils. The impact of excise duty, plastic duty, eco levy, and the VAT increase is going to bring a total of actually 56%.
56%?
Yeah, difference in the price when it lands on the shelf. On the shelf. And that is why people are wondering, are we encouraging manufacturing of oils, edible oils in Kenya? Because if you are going to increase by that 56%, then the cost of cooking oil is going to go up astronomically. And that becomes a problem. And you see, they are not saying directly it is this one tax, but you introduce a taxation to the manufacturer when he's importing. You introduce this and this. But
there's VAT, there's excise duty,
there's custom duty,
and there's also the taxation on the plastic packaging, and that edible oil itself. So you're taxing edible oil, you're taxing the packaging because it's packaged or using the plastic aspect. So you're doing that, and then you slap a 16% VAT on it. It's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous, So let's say even like the bread, we were saying maybe to go up by 10 bob. But now if there is a pepper which is also being taxed, there's also fuel levy, transport costs. So the manufacturer is likely to increase by higher amount of shillings than the 10 shillings you are talking about.
Now let me ask you, because right now we are seeing a fiscal policy that being implemented that is so being resisted by the people. People are hating to pay taxes in Kenya because and that's the wrong culture that is being pushed, and you cannot blame the people because the taxation has gone so high. Isn't it possible to come up with a tax regime that taxes little but spreads the tax base, so you have more people paying taxes without negatively impacting them, and you'll have more people seeking to pay taxes then right now people are trying always a means not to pay this tax because it impacts negatively on their numbers.
True, and most professionals, that's what they are recommending, that let us not increase the rates of taxation, but increase the base, so that we can increase the total revenue being collected, but we don't have to increase the rate. So that as we bring in more sectors into taxable income, then we are able to increase our tax collection. And there are strategies which have come up to be able to do that, like the e-teams, which is being encouraged. As more people register and start using e-teams, then they'll come into the tax bracket. You've seen also the Internet of Things. People are also being taxed. Anybody who is involved in that. So it is a growing area. The only issue is then it takes time to grow that and the people to get used and to perfect that. People to register and start getting used to it. The authorities to understand where their gaps are and to improve and to ensure that systems are working. But we are in too much hurry to move. And that is why you see now the taxman is becoming desperate and just upping the rates. That's why in the media term paper which was lodged, actually they anticipate by 2027 the taxes will start coming down because the base will have grown.
2027?
Because that medium term paper ends 2027. So they are saying by the time we get to that period, the tax base will have increased because so many people have been included in paying taxes. Then these high rates will now start being reversed slowly to benefit of Mwananchi. But it seems now we are in a hurry, we really need to collect. That's why
we're going for everything.
For everything. The only problem is going to the same person, because if you look at direct taxation, but people are working, it's not that the numbers have grown, and it's not that the salaries have grown. So you are taxing the same pay slip and just increasing, taking more. And as I said, if the dividend of the service is not being given, I think Kenyans will not mind. Like, if I paid 50% of my tax, of my salary as tax, but I don't have to pay school fees for my child, I don't have to pay health care, roads are good, then there'll be no issue. But the problem is,
I'm being taxed.
You still have to go and do all these things on your own.
I'm being taxed, and it's the same person who's being taxed. I mean, the same pay slip is the one that is being taxed. So let's go back to the debt burden of this country. As you were saying, we are now at 11.2 trillion. Which is 72% of the GDP. When they took over, you said that the debt burden, the debt portfolio was at how much?
Around 9.6.
9.6. So now it's gone to 11.2. That's a huge jump within such a short period.
We still need to understand what is the breakdown, but mainly either valuation was done by exchange rates going up, because maybe by the time Uhuru was handing over, maybe the shillings were nearer to 100 shillings. Now we are talking about 135, average 135, 140, between 130 to 140.
So that could have played a role.
Exactly, So that valuation by foreign exchange, and seeing that almost 55% of the debt is in foreign currency, then that impacts it negatively. Number two is the maturing debt also could have attracted interest. There could have also been rollovers. So you find even without having to borrow fresh, already you are incurring more debt because of interest cost. So that is where they're
actually saying the amount of money we are going to pay for as interest for the loans that we have is 1 trillion.
1 trillion,
So we are going to collect whatever it is that we are going to collect, but 1 trillion is literally going to go to pay interest alone of loans.
and not reducing the principal. So yes. That leaves us in a bigger problem. Because if it was reducing the actual debt,
yes.
also the interest cost will also come down.
Yes.
So those are the risks we need.
So even when we pay the 1 trillion, we've not touched on the principal.
Yeah, that is where the problem is.
It's just interest.
Interest, exactly.
That's a huge amount. We are expecting to raise 4 trillion, and of this 1 trillion is going to pay interest of loans.
Yeah, so loans are expensive, and it's high time the government came up with strategy on how to address it. And though increasing taxation is one of it, also looking at wastage in government is an important aspect. There was talk about merging certain state agencies or departments, which seem to be doing the same thing, which could also end up saving a lot of money for the government and Mwananchi. There was also,
but that hasn't taken place.
It has not been implemented effectively as it should. Recently, the president talked to some certain parastatal heads to reduce their budget by 30%.
Yes.
If that could cut across the non-critical areas, and cut those kind of expenditure, then that will also bring a lot of savings to the country, and use the same resources now to reduce the debt, so that we don't keep on being on the spiral, borrowing to pay, and the debt is growing and growing. So
there's a lot of wastage in the government.
There's a lot of
duplication of things by different departments.
Exactly. Yeah. Which needs to be addressed. So we need to really be able to audit this and see what we need to merge, what we need to stop this wastage, and save money for the country.
I was listening to some of the measures that have been put in place by a country like Burkina Faso. Burkina Faso has a new president called Traore, a young gentleman, military guy. When he came into the government, the first thing he did, obviously the presidential salary has to go up, but he refused. He said he's going to continue with the same salary he was receiving in the military. And then he has reduced everything in terms of the packs that the ministers and all those people were receiving. He has reduced them, and he has started projects in Burkina Faso that are supposed to spearhead the growth of the country. The country was exporting raw gold. I mean, people would just harvest the soil and go with it. He's now in the process of developing what you can call a gold refinery, and it's actually doing very well. These are the kind of things that we want to see. If you're saying you're cutting down on cost, let us see you cutting down on costs.
Yes.
Because after all is said and done, we are the ones who are paying for it.
Yes.
We are paying for these costs. But the MPs are now seeking to have the Parliamentary Service Commission paying determining their salaries, and there will be even MPs from Nairobi are saying they need to be paid mileage allowances. At a time when the country is saying we need to be cutting down on costs, they're increasing their costs. So it's having a negative effect.
Exactly, and that is the unfortunate thing about our entire system, and that is what, when we are off, that's what we are discussing.
Yes.
That everyone seems to want to dip their fingers in the kitty, and take as much as they can, but no one is telling us how to build that kitty, how to grow that kitty. And that is where the problem is. If this taxation being said or being proposed was to bring fantastic issues like investment, and the people can see these are dividends you are going to get from this, the pain will be less. But if you are only addressing expenditure, office of the president, this and that, and you're not really addressing production, then it becomes a problem.
If you look at initially the Vision 2030 was supposed to turn Kenya into an industrialized country.
Exactly. Yeah.
If you look at the policies that are being implemented, do you see these policies targeting us and moving us towards achieving that really?
The problem is, if you look at the development budget, is a very small figure, less than a trillion. And the Vision 2030 projects are supposed to be financed so that we can get those dividends. So you find if you allocate party allocations, then it means then you're only paying staff, officers, but you're not really going to the development aspect of it, so that project can become profitable to the country. And that is where the problem is. So we need to change the mindset and invest more on these projects. There are so many sectors which have been left out. Like Kenya now, we cannot talk about leather industries. Because all our skins and dyes are exported and processed. How does that department, who gives those licenses when the country is as a shortage? And why can that be used?
We're exporting hides and we have a shortage.
We have a shortage. Then we have to import again.
we export them raw and then we import shoes.
Exactly. So now, those are the problems. Because, and why is someone not addressing it? Because there's a huge land in Athi River which had been allocated during Uru's time to grow that kind of industry, but nothing is being done. So why can't that be done so that all the hides coming from this country and maybe in East African region can be processed here and produce leather goods, leather products which can be exported. We do value addition and export and have more money. You know, some of the investment really don't need to spend so much money. The government can spur this, and then you invite even other like-minded people to come and invest, private sector to do it. Government needs only to start with the initial capital. But the fact that they are not doing it, then it becomes an issue.
Because if you look at Uganda and Tanzania, I remember listening to President Yoweri Museveni saying that, iron ore. There were people who are coming and just harvesting, iron ore in its raw form and exporting it to India to go process it, and then the country imports iron into the country, yet the raw material was taken from his country. And in fact, one of the gentlemen that was doing that is a Kenyan. And so he banned the exportation of raw materials. So, and told the Kenyan gentleman that if you're going to access our iron ore, you will have to build a company in Uganda, so that you harvest it, you process it here, then whatever you do with it, you do it with it from here. If you're going to export, the country has to benefit, jobs have to be created. The same thing, Tanzania, the tanzanite, the green garnet, tanzanite actually, was being harvested by some Chinese in, just people taking soil and going with it, they work on it, and they make the most profit. We don't seem to have come up with a policy that is going to stop people from harvesting raw materials in Kenya. We're still exporting raw.
Yes. If you look at what the country loses in terms of natural resources that we are endowed with, even some people don't want to tell you that we have this and that and that, because they are extracting and selling as raw materials. Simple things like the other day, there was a bulletin in the media on baobab tree in the coast, whereby somebody's coming and buy very old baobab trees and cutting them down, and the local people don't understand what is going on. The soils you are talking about, I've also met a scientist who explained to me the same thing.
Yes.
Trained in Israel, and he was saying there are some people who are building a road, and all the soil they are scooping and sending it abroad.
Yes.
But when he went and tested, he found actually what they are exporting is the soil has got iron ore. So
and this is Kenya.
This is Kenya. So when you now who authorizes this kind of soil to be exported?
Yes.
And how come that the government does not have the machinery to test these things?
Yes.
So we need to come up with the rules to protect our natural resources and to open our minds so that we are not taken advantage of.
Yes.
Because a lot of resources in Kenya and in Africa are being stolen by people because we are being blind.
Yes.
And even when you know, the people who should know are looking the other way to allow these things to be stolen.
Because they're being paid some money.
Exactly.
And
Yes.
the country could be making a lot of money from these resources
Yes.
so that we don't have to really impose very heavy taxes on the people because there's a lot of resources that we have as a country. We have iron ore, we have cobalt, which is one of the most sought after mineral in as far as phones manufacturing is concerned.
Exactly.
We have coal in this country. We have so many resources, but it's either they're being used and being exported without the country knowing, or there's some, as they say, the country is owned by certain people.
Yeah.
Maybe the owners of Kenya are doing what they need to do. We have so many resources, and seeing that we are just exporting raw material is really a disservice to the people, taxpayer of this country.
It's a disaster actually, because the question is, for how long then can you continue taxing people without increasing their incomes?
Yes.
And the budget expenditure the government expenditure is just expanding.
Yes.
Then it is going to be a problem. So we need to bring in more sectors into the economy. We need to employ more. We need to invest more so that the actual receivables are more than what we are doing. Otherwise, with the greedy that people have, only getting from the kitty and not growing that kitty, then the country cannot go further.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, let's take a short break. I need to take some water, some hot water. Let's take that short break, and when we come back, we continue with this as we bring the curtains down on the show. Remember, in the afternoon, the CS Treasury Ndungu will be reading the budget, and then afterward, what happens is that the MPs will get into debate about the budgets and some of the departments and what is going to be provided for. We got graphics that are going to come on your screen showing you what the executive is looking at. The provisions are being put forth for the executive office. Office of the President is going to get 5.3 billion shillings. State House is going to get 9.4 billion shillings. Deputy President's Office is going to get 4.8 billion shillings. Then you have the Prime Cabinet Secretary's Office. This is Musalia Mudavadi, that is getting 1.1 billion shillings. Ministry of Defense is going to get 168 million shillings. Office of the Spouse of the Deputy President is going to get 583 million. I think the Ministry of Defense, the 168 million, that should be something close to $1 billion, because I think that's too little for Defense, Ministry of Defense. And then we're also going to look at some of the sectors that are going to lose in this budget. According to the budget proposals, agriculture is going to get their budget is going to be trimmed by 12.6 billion. Medical services is going to be trimmed by 10 billion. Education ministry is going to have, and we are talking about the higher and basic, is going to be trimmed by 55 billion. Ministry of Roads is going to lose 48 billion. Petroleum is going to lose 25 billion shillings. That's the kind of monies that are going to be trimmed. And these are the items that are actually going to be taxed. The Income Tax Act, VAT Act, these are the taxes that are going to be miscellaneous fees and levies act, Tax Procedures Act, excise duties, and these are the things. Maybe we can look now at some of the items that are going to be affected by this. We have the edible oils that are going to be hit at 25% excise duty, so expect your cooking oil to go up. Then you have plastic package, and majority of the things that you basically take at home come packaged in plastic, one way, one form or the other. So that means that the price is going to go up. Then the introduction of tax on advertising on internet and social media, this is also going to impact greatly as it's implemented, because what's going to happen, the young people who have moved to this area are going to have their money's cut. Then you have the car, 2.5% of car value. This is the car circulation tax, which is going to impact people. It's going to go from 5,000, and this will be implemented when you're buying your insurance. It's going to be from around 5,000 to 100,000 shillings. Then betting, gaming, and lottery stakes, 15 to 20% rise in the amounts that will be taken from whatever you win. Then you have credit and debit cards. This is a forex transaction processing checks. This is at 16% rise. That's huge. 16%. Anytime you do for a transaction, either processing checks or forex transaction. Bernard, you've been in the bank for as long as I can remember. You've dealt with different banks and at higher levels. Well, can you break down that for us?
Well, yeah. Well, the government has been collecting excise duty on bank transactions.
Yes.
It's been pegged at 15%.
Yes.
But now they are proposing to increase to 20%.
Yes.
Now there's a money transfer aspect, debit cards and all that, which are not attracting this. That's why it looks there's a whole jump of 16% to 20%.
Yes.
Yeah, but this was introduced 3 years ago, and people have been paying, but now they want to increase it further. That is, like, if the bank...
They want to move it from 16 to 20.
15% to 20%.
Yes.
But there are some items which are not being charged.
Yes.
So they will jump from 0 to 20% direct. Yeah. So now, if a bank...
Explain to me the debit card and the credit card.
Yeah, what happens is, like, if you use your ATM card,
yes,
you go to the ATM and draw cash. Maybe the bank will charge you 30 bob.
Yes.
Now, because the bank has collected 30 bob, the government comes and says they want 20%.
Of the 30 shillings?
No, it is loaded on top.
So now I'll be charged 50?
Yeah, 20% on 30.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So that will be 6 bob.
Yes.
So you'll be charged 36 bob.
So now it goes up by 36 shillings.
Yeah, the 6 shillings goes to government, excise duty, 30 bob goes to the bank. To the bank.
So every time I go to the ATM, it means that I'll be charged 6 shillings more.
Extra, yeah. 20%. It is pegged on the fee you pay to the bank, then a percentage, 20% of that goes to the government. If you take a loan and the bank takes what they call commitment fees or arrangement fees, they charge you 100,000.
Yes.
Now, the government is supposed to take 20%. So the bank ends up charging you 120. So the bank retains the 100 and 20,000 is sent
to the government.
To the government, yeah.
So that makes even money is becoming expensive.
Expensive, exactly. Transacting the banks becomes expensive. The loans you take also grow, become bigger, because interest rates are also not low.
Yes.
Most banks now are well over 20%, some are charging 23%, 24%. others 27%, others 36%.
36%?
The interest rates have gone up, yeah.
36? How are you supposed to recover? How are you supposed to pay a loan at 36%?
You see, some institutions are telling you 3% per month.
Yes.
So people don't understand. When you analyze that,
yes,
it is times 12. 3%
yes,
per month times 12.
It
comes to 36. So when they tell you 3% per month, you think it is cheap.
Yes.
Yeah, but when you analyze that,
it's 36%.
36%.
But how that makes credit so expensive, meaning if people are not accessing credit, then people cannot develop, can they?
No, it's very difficult. Especially credit cards. Yeah. You know, the bank gives you maybe 50 days credit period when you don't pay interest.
Yes.
And then they tell you maybe pay 10% of that, then we roll over. Now, what you roll over attracts interest at 3% per month. So that automatically it becomes 36% per annum. So that becomes very expensive credit.
Yes.
Yeah. So people need to be alert, and it's good to, like, if it's credit card debts, clear them monthly so that you roll over. They don't roll over, yeah.
Yes.
Because at least you have got a free period that you don't pay.
Yes.
Grace period of almost 50 days, most of the credit cards.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the moment you roll over, then you go into a spiral because you are paying interest on interest.
So now as we bring, because I can see our time is almost done. I know Cynthia Nanjala is preparing to come and tell us exactly what will be happening today. What would, if you had a time with the CS Treasury, and you are to advise them, because you are an economic expert, on how they can be able to collect tax without having the citizenry complaining, what would you tell them?
First is to be sensitive to the common mwananchi, reduce, what I would advise is let's avoid increasing direct taxation, or even the indirect taxation, which has got a direct impact on what is placed on the table by mwananchi. Because unless the incomes are increasing, then we are likely to get into a situation whereby the economy is even stagnate, because a lot is being taken away from the active sectors of the economy. Again, if you overtax the manufacturers, then the country becomes an expensive manufacturing destination. Then our goods cannot compete out there. Then again, it will end up reducing our competitiveness, because you're in a competitive environment. So there should be a balance in taxation and what people are able to afford, and how again we use this money. And as you said, so long as there's no dividend after you collect the taxes, then people will always be unhappy.
Yes.
If they can see direct dividends on what taxation then brings to them by giving them services free of charge or at a reduced cost, or seeing actual development that is producing and giving profit to the economy, then people will feel less pains and will be catered for. So the ministry needs to be able to look at these things and understand. Last year people were complaining, now we are increasing the pain even more. Yes. And there's no change. So we needed these people to get used to what was reduced last year before we introduce more taxation. And so I think the way to go is expand the tax base. Let us bring in more people who can pay taxes. Let us be more innovative in how we collect taxes. Besides taxes, there are a lot of other sectors the government can make money, which is going to the wrong hands.
Yes.
For example, if you apply for a passport, There are people who want, maybe because of speed, they don't want to wait for 2 weeks or 1 month, and they want accelerated access to that document.
Yes.
You can charge a VIP fee, and the government will collect fees to finance.
You make it legal.
Exactly, yeah.
Yes, VIP, if you want it accelerated, you pay this amount.
Exactly.
And people will pay.
Yeah, so, and you see, that kind of fee collection is need-based. Only those who need it go for it.
Yes.
And there are so many areas you can do that. One of the richest circles, it is a police circle.
Yes.
So
police circle.
Yeah, if you look at the statistics now, it's regarded as the richest. Where is this money coming from? Yeah, is it that police are the highest employer or the highest earner?
Yes.
So it means there is income here, which the government can tap in.
Yes.
And this is looking at what my reverend calls sin tax.
Yes.
If you mess on the road, why can't you be given a ticket and a fine and you pay?
Yes.
Because people want convenience.
Yes.
They want. Yes, I've overtaken on the yellow line.
Yes.
Give me a ticket, but give me a fine, and I pay the government.
I'll pay the government.
Not the policeman.
Yes.
So these are the kind of things we are saying. If we can look deep in this, and I'm sure in the government discussion these things come up. If we can look at these things, there are so many areas. Only those who need that kind of service or end up in that area can be able to pay. And you can collect a lot of money which can finance some of these needs the government does. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Bernard. Bernard is an economist. And if you need any sort of consultancy, financial consultancy, you can seek his services. You can call us and we'll connect you to him. So